Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. Proceed. There is a famous hadith that I want to reflect on how we translate it most of the time. This hadith is reported by Bukhari and Muslim from Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Most of you would know this hadith. It's about the 7 people that will be shaded by the shade of Allah on the day when there will be no shade except His shade. سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ظِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ. One of those 7 people, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And a man whose heart is, and the usual translation would be, whose heart is what? Attached to the masjid, or to the masajid, to the masjids. However, there is a narration that where that translation will be accurate. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ بِالْمَسَاجِدِ. And a man whose heart is attached to the masjid. But there is this particular wording, this particular authentic wording from the Prophet ﷺ, وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, not بِالْمَسَاجِدِ, فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And you could always say that fi and ba and all of those articles may be interchangeable. However, I searched for a scholar who would point out the difference between the 2 narrations, and I found that the Hatem al-Haj, being of the caliber that he was, did actually point out the difference. وَرَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And a man whose heart is not attached to the masjid, is hung up in the masjid. It is like when you say a fixture or a lantern, كالقنديل تعلقه في المسجد, a lantern that you hang up in the masjid. So his heart is not attached to the masjid. His heart is like one of the fixtures of the masjid that are hung up inside the masjid. Hafiz ibn Hajar said that this particular narration is corroborated by another narration, the narration of al-Jawzaqi, rahimahullah, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, كَأَنَّمَا قَلْبُهُ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ, as if his heart is inside the masjid. His heart is in the masjid. So Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah said, so when he leaves the masjid, when his body leaves the masjid, his heart is left behind in the masjid because it is fixed in there like one of the fixtures inside the masjid. That's a very beautiful expression, and the usage of قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ by the Prophet ﷺ should not be overlooked, and it should not be always translated as attached to the masjid, because there is a deeper meaning here where the heart is fixed to the masjid, hung up like a lantern inside the masjid. The body leaves the masjid, the heart does not. And why is this? Why would the heart be attached to the masjid this way? Because of the great virtue of Buyut Allah, because this is the house of Allah. You feel that you are rejoicing in the hospitality of Allah. Your host is none or short of none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is your host. And you have the most generous host. In the masajid, you have the most generous host. There is a hadith reported by Ibn Majah from Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu that has like a very special wording. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَا تَوَطَّلَ رَجُلٌ مُسْلِمٌ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلصَّلَاةِ وَالذِّكْرِ إِلَّا تَبَشْبَشَ لَهُ اللَّهُ كَمَا يَتَبَشْبَشُ أَهْلُ الْغَائِبِ إِذَا قَدِمَ أَوْ عِنْدَ قُدُومِهِ. So no Muslim man will frequent the masjids except that Allah will تَبَشْبَشَ لَهُ اللَّهُ. Tabashbash is a superlative used in the cases of extreme expression of the light. When you say basha, you know, Hatem basha li Mu'adh, Hatem expressed the light to Mu'adh, or expressed happiness at, you know, the sight of Mu'adh or the coming of Mu'adh. But the basha is a superlative. You know, basically the addition in the structure, the modification of the structure indicates an increase in the meaning. So basha would be expressed with the light, the basha would be a superlative from expressed to the light. So like an exaggeration from expressed to the light. Can you imagine this? That when you come to the masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses, you know, delight, extreme delight to you, at your coming to the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, and this hadith is authentic, كَانَ يَتَبَشْبَشُ أَهْلُ الْغَائِبِ عِنْدَ قُدُومِهِ, like the family of the absent one showed the light or expressed the light upon his return. The family of the absent one expressed the light upon his return. This is because the Masajid are the lands of opportunity. You know, you came to America for opportunity, right? This is opportunity in this dunya. Opportunity for the gains and the pleasures and the achievements in this dunya, which is not a bad idea to seek them, but for the opportunities of the hereafter, the land of opportunity is the house of Allah, is the masjid. This is where you get to bond with your fellow Muslims. This is where you get to mention Allah, make dhikr. This is where you get to listen to an exhortation or listen to a lecture that teaches you about the rulings of your deen. This is where you get to know about someone who's absent because he's sick and you go out and visit them. This is where you get to witness the janazah. This is where you get to know that someone died so that you may take heed from the death of your fellow Muslims. This is the land of opportunity for the success in the hereafter. A few verses that we have already recited in Ramadan. Why are we reciting the Quran in Ramadan? Why are we praying the night prayers and we're trying to finish the Quran, the recitation of the Quran, if we will make no use of what we have recited? So I will just, you know, end with a mention of these or those verses. Two locutions, in two places in the Quran. One in Surah At-Tawbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَى الزَّكَاةَ وَلَمْ يَخْشَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ فَعَسَى أُولَٰئِكَ أَن يَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُهْتَدِينَ. So, إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ, verily those who will maintain the houses established, you know, dhikr and salah, and the houses of Allah are those who, من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر, those who believe in Allah and hereafter, establish the prayers, give the zakat, وَلَمْ يَخْشَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and fear none but Allah, فَعَسَى أُولَٰئِكَ أَن يَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُهْتَدِينَ. Those are the ones that will have a chance of guidance. Those are the ones that may become guided. Those, not others. Those that frequent the masajid, فَعَسَى أُولَٰئِكَ أَن يَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُهْتَدِينَ. Those are the ones that may become guided. And then in Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار يجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم من فضله والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. في بيوت, in houses that Allah ordered that they be raised, that they be erected, يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال. In them, wherein men exalt his praises in the mornings and the evenings. There are men in those houses that Allah ordered to be erected, exalted His praises in the mornings and evenings. The description of those men are لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة. They are not distracted by commerce or sales. You know, Allah mentioned commerce first and then He mentioned sales, because that is the immediate means to acquiring money. When you sell something, you get money immediately. So it's not like a long transaction like other forms of commerce, but it's a sale. So you'll get the money immediately from the sale. تجارة ولا بيع. They're not distracted by تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله, from the remembrance of Allah and the establishment of the prayer and the giving of zakah. يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. They fear a day wherein the hearts and sights will turn about in awe. The hearts and sights will turn about in awe. I will just leave you with those two verses, and I leave you for a moment of reflection, you know, until the Shaykh comes back. I'm not going to continue until the Shaykh comes back, so that you have a moment of reflection. What will you do with these verses? What will you do from here on for the next year until the next Ramadan comes back and we see many of the brothers that we have not seen for the entire year? What is your plan concerning those few verses? You know, the second locution is 3 verses together. But what is your plan regarding these verses that were recited, that you listened to, that you came to the masjid to listen to the Quran? These verses were recited to you. How are you going to respond to the instructions in these 2 verses? Think about it and then make a decision, a resolution for next year, inshallah.